Did Hollywood's golden dream ever cross the mafia's red line? Behind the red carpets, studio gates, and flashing cameras, there were whispers of gangsters, illegal gambling, blackmail, threats, and deaths that never felt fully explained. Some stars were murdered, some vanished, some died in cases officially ruled accidents or suicides. But every name on this list was pulled into a darker question. Were they victims of fate, Hollywood secrets, or something far more dangerous? Number 20. George Raft. George Raft was not killed by the mafia, but he may be the perfect doorway into this story. Before Hollywood turned him into a slick screen gangster, Raft had already moved near real underworld circles. He knew men whose names carried fear in nightclubs, casinos, and back rooms. That made him valuable on screen because his gangster image did not feel borrowed. It felt remembered. The danger was that audiences could never fully separate the actor from the company he kept. Raft survived the world that destroyed others, but his name proves something chilling about Golden Age Hollywood. Sometimes the mafia did not need to kill a star. Sometimes it simply stood close enough to cast a shadow over his entire legend. Number 19. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra was not murdered by the mafia, but no serious discussion of Hollywood's underworld can ignore him. His voice made him a national obsession, his image made him untouchable, and his friendships made him controversial for decades. Sinatra was repeatedly linked in reports and rumors to powerful mob figures, especially during the casino and nightclub era, when glamour and organized crime often shared the same room. Nothing about his death was a mob killing, but his life shows how complicated the line became between celebrity, influence, protection, and danger. Sinatra did not look like a victim of the underworld. He looked like someone who understood how close power could stand beside fame, and how long that suspicion could survive. Number 18. James Caan. James Caan belongs to a later Hollywood generation, but his name still fits this shadowy opening because of how closely his screen image blended with real underworld associations. After playing Sonny Corleone in The Godfather, Caan became permanently linked to the mythology of mob power. Off-screen, he was known to have friendships with men connected to organized crime, including figures discussed in legal and media circles. Caan was not killed by the mafia, and his story should not be treated as a murder case, but he represents something important. By the time old Hollywood's gangster myths reached the modern era, audiences almost wanted the actor and the mob legend to become one. That confusion is exactly what made the rumors so powerful. Number 17. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton was not officially killed by the mafia, but her story belongs inside Hollywood's darkest corridor. She arrived with the kind of beauty studios loved to sell: blonde, glamorous, dangerous, and camera-ready. For a moment, she looked like a star about to explode. Then the dream curdled. Scandals, bad relationships, violent headlines, addiction, and career collapse swallowed her faster than Hollywood could rescue her. Payton's name was often pulled into stories about rough men, nightlife, backroom deals, and a film town where damaged women were used until they became inconvenient. No police file proves a mob execution, but her fall shows the kind of world where gangsters, fixers, tabloids, and desperate studio politics all breathed the same air. By the time she died at only 39, the glamorous screen image was gone. What remained was a cautionary legend. Not every victim of Hollywood's underworld was shot in an alley. Some were slowly destroyed in public. Number 16. Marie McDonald. Marie McDonald's life sounds like something torn from a noir paperback. Beauty, fame, kidnapping claims, pills, headlines, and a death that fed rumor long after the official story ended. Known as the Body Beautiful, McDonald had the kind of image that made Hollywood look effortless from the outside. But behind that image came chaos. In the 50s, she claimed she had been kidnapped, drugged, and taken across state lines, a story that immediately attracted suspicion, disbelief, and sensational coverage. Some treated it as a publicity stunt. Others wondered whether darker forces were circling her life. There was no proven mafia murder, but the atmosphere around McDonald was exactly the kind that made old Hollywood conspiracy thrive. Nightclubs, wealthy men, shadowy associates, and a star who seemed trapped between glamour and danger. When she died young, officially from an overdose, the rumors did not die with her. Her story remains one of Hollywood's most unsettling what really happened mysteries. Number 15. Mick Adams. Nick Adams was not a proven mafia victim, but his death carried the strange, unfinished feeling that conspiracy channels live for. He was close to major stars, hungry for recognition, and always seemed one step away from the fame he believed he deserved. Adams moved through the same Hollywood ecosystem where agents, studios, gossip columnists, powerful friends, and dangerous rumors could make or break a career overnight. When he was found dead in 1968, the official explanation pointed toward drug-related causes, but the uncertainty around the details kept darker theories alive. Some whispered about debts, others talked about secrets. Some simply saw another ambitious actor crushed by the machine. There is no hard evidence that the mafia killed him, and the script should say that clearly. But Adams belongs here because his death shows how easily Hollywood mystery becomes mob legend. In a town built on illusion, even a lonely death could start sounding like a hit. Number 14. Olive Thomas. Olive Thomas died long before the classic gangster era reached its full power. But her story belongs in the same dark museum of Hollywood secrets. She was one of the silent screen's most magnetic young stars, a former Ziegfeld girl with beauty, fame, money, and a marriage to Jack Pickford, brother of America's sweetheart, Mary Pickford. On the surface, she had everything old Hollywood promised. Then, in 1920, during a trip to Paris, Thomas swallowed a toxic substance and died after days of agony. Officially, it was treated as a tragic accident, but the public did not want a simple answer. Rumors exploded almost immediately. Drugs, parties, scandal, jealousy, studio pressure, and secret habits that polite newspapers only hinted at. This was not a mafia killing, and it should never be presented as one. But Olive Thomas shows how early Hollywood learned to turn death into fog. When a beautiful young star died far from home, surrounded by glamour and whispers, the truth became almost impossible to separate from legend. Her death helped create the template for every Hollywood mystery that followed. Number 13. Carol Landis. Carol Landis was not killed by the mafia, but her death still carries that old Hollywood chill, the feeling that the official answer never fully satisfied the audience. She was beautiful, patriotic, talented, and adored by soldiers after tirelessly entertaining troops during World War II. To the public, Landis looked like the cheerful blonde star who brought comfort during a brutal time. But behind the smile, her private life was unraveling. Failed romances, career disappointment, emotional exhaustion, and a painful relationship with actor Rex Harrison surrounded her final days. In 1948, she was found dead at only 29. The official ruling was suicide. Still, like so many Golden Age deaths, rumors gathered around the case almost immediately. Some questioned who knew what, who arrived when, and why a star with so much public brightness seemed so alone behind closed doors. There is no proven mob link here, but Landis belongs in this countdown because Hollywood's underworld was not always about bullets. Sometimes it was secrecy, silence, powerful men, and a system that let vulnerable stars disappear emotionally long before they disappeared physically. Number 12. Paul Byrne. Paul Byrne was not an actor, but his death is too important to leave out of any Golden Age mystery list. As an MGM executive and husband of Jean Harlow, Byrne lived inside the most powerful machine in Hollywood. He was not a gangster, but he worked in a studio world famous for controlling scandals before the public could understand them. In 1932, Byrne was found dead in his home from a gunshot wound, only weeks after marrying Harlow. The official ruling was suicide, and the case quickly became one of MGM's darkest scandals. But almost from the beginning, people questioned the neatness of the story. There were rumors about his past, his marriage, his mental state, and the studio's desperate need to protect Harlow's image. No credible evidence proves a mafia killing, Still, Burns' death shows the same dangerous pattern behind many Hollywood legends. A body, a powerful institution, a damaged star, and a version of events delivered quickly to the public. Whether the truth was simple or buried forever, Paul Byrne became a symbol of how Golden Age Hollywood could make mystery look official. Number 11. Thomas Ince. Thomas Ince was not officially a mafia victim, but his death became one of Hollywood's first great legends of power, silence, and suspicion. Ince was a major early filmmaker, a man who helped shape the studio system before Hollywood fully became Hollywood. In 1924, he joined a yacht trip connected to newspaper giant William Randolph Hearst, along with famous guests from the film world. Soon after, Ince became violently ill and died. Officially, his death was explained as heart trouble and indigestion-related illness. But the rumor machine had already started. Some whispered that he had been shot by mistake during a jealous confrontation. Others claimed powerful people covered up what really happened to protect reputations. There is no proven mafia connection, and the story should be treated as Hollywood legend, not fact. But Ince belongs here because his death created a pattern that would haunt the industry for decades. Rich men, private parties, famous names, sudden death, and a truth buried beneath conflicting stories. Long before gangster rumors became fashionable, Hollywood had already learned how quickly mystery could become myth. Number 10. William Desmond Taylor. William Desmond Taylor's murder was not a confirmed mafia killing, but it remains one of the most important unsolved crimes in early Hollywood history. Taylor was a respected director and former actor, polished, cultured, and powerful enough to know secrets in a town built on pretending. In 1922, he was found shot dead inside his Los Angeles bungalow. The killing stunned Hollywood. Police looked at actresses, servants, drug scandals, jealous lovers, and studio politics, but no one was ever convicted. That silence made the case grow larger than the facts. People wondered whether Taylor knew too much about narcotics, private lives, or powerful figures who needed him gone. Organized crime was not officially proven, but the atmosphere around the case feels like the beginning of the Hollywood underworld myth. A murder behind closed doors, famous women pulled into headlines, evidence mishandled, and studios desperate to keep their kingdom from collapsing. Taylor's death was not just a crime, it was a warning. In Hollywood, a man could be important, connected, respected, and still end up as a secret nobody wanted solved. Number 9. Ted Healy. Ted Healy was not proven to be killed by the mafia, but his death has always had the ugly smell of a story that never settled cleanly. Healy was a comedian, actor, and the original force behind the act that eventually became the Three Stooges. On screen, he looked loud, rough, and funny. Off-screen, his reputation was much darker. Drinking, fights, nightclub trouble, and enemies made in the kind of places where Hollywood glamour mixed with real danger. In 1937, Healy died suddenly after a night of heavy partying. The official explanations shifted through illness, alcohol, and physical collapse. But rumors claimed he had been beaten outside a nightclub by powerful men, possibly after insulting the wrong people. No mob hit was ever proven. Still, the story survives because it feels exactly like old Hollywood at its most dangerous. Celebrities drinking in private rooms, violence hidden behind fame, and newspapers receiving a cleaner version than the street remembered. Ted Healy's death belongs here because it shows how easily a drunken Hollywood night could turn into a legend of silence, fear, and possible revenge. Number 8. David Bacon. David Bacon's death is one of the strangest and most cinematic mysteries on this list. He was not a major superstar, but he was a handsome young actor with enough promise to make his murder unforgettable. In 1943, Bacon was seen driving erratically through Santa Monica before crashing his car. When help arrived, the truth was far more shocking. He had been stabbed, and he was dying from the wound. Before he could explain what had happened, he collapsed, and the mystery locked itself forever. No mafia connection was ever proven. But Bacon's final moments feel like something from a noir thriller, A wounded actor, a desperate drive, a hidden attacker, and a secret he could not live long enough to reveal. Investigators searched for answers, but the case never produced the clear ending people wanted. That emptiness allowed rumors to grow around his private life, his relationships, and whatever dangerous company he may have kept. David Bacon belongs in this countdown because his death captures the terrifying side of old Hollywood. Sometimes the most haunting stories are not the ones with confirmed villains, but the ones where the killer simply vanished into the night. Number 7. Albert Decker. Albert Decker was not officially killed by the Mafia, but his death is one of those Hollywood cases so disturbing that rumors almost became unavoidable. He was a respected character actor, a man audiences had seen in crime dramas, westerns, political stories, and dark studio pictures. He had the face of someone who could play power, guilt, fear, or corruption without raising his voice. But in 1968, Decker was found dead in a scene so bizarre and unsettling that it immediately felt bigger than a simple accident. The official explanation pointed toward accidental death connected to autoerotic asphyxiation. Yet the details reported around the scene, the restraints, the writing on his body, the strange presentation of it all, made people question whether someone else had been involved. There was no proven mafia connection. No official evidence showed a gangster hit. But Decker's death entered the same haunted category as so many old Hollywood mysteries. A famous man, a private room, strange evidence, and an ending that sounded too shocking for the public to accept quietly. That is why conspiracy theories attached themselves to the case. People wondered whether it was staged, whether it was revenge, whether it was humiliation, or whether Hollywood simply preferred an explanation that closed the door quickly. The truth may be far less cinematic than the rumors, but Albert Decker's death still feels like a crime scene photograph from a nightmare, a reminder that in Hollywood, even an official ruling could leave behind a shadow nobody wanted to stand in. Number 6. Ramon Navarro. Ramon Navarro was not murdered by the Mafia, but his death was so brutal, so tragic, and so deeply tied to Hollywood's fallen royalty that it is often dragged into darker underworld lists. In the silent era, Navarro was a major star, handsome, elegant, and famous enough to become one of the screen's great romantic idols. He had once stood near the top of the industry, especially after Ben-Hur, when Hollywood still treated its leading men like gods carved out of marble. But fame moved on. By the late 1960s, Navarro was older, more isolated, and living with the complicated loneliness that haunted many silent stars after the camera stopped worshiping them. In 1968, he was found murdered inside his home. The crime was horrifying. Two brothers entered his life, believing there was money hidden in the house, and the night ended in violence. Officially, this was not a mafia execution. It was a robbery that turned into a savage killing. But the reason Navarro belongs in this countdown is because his death exposes another side of the Hollywood myth. Once the spotlight fades, even legends can become vulnerable. Rumors grew because the details were ugly, personal, and humiliating. The kind of story studios would have buried instantly in the old days. There was no mob boss, no confirmed hitman, no organized crime order. But Ramon Navarro's death still feels like a gangster-era warning. Hollywood can make a man immortal on screen, then leave him painfully alone when real danger walks through the door. Number 5. Sal Mineo. Sal Mineo was not a Golden Age star in the oldest sense, and he was not killed by the Mafia. But his murder became one of those Hollywood deaths that rumor tried to rewrite before the truth could catch up. Mineo had been a brilliant young actor, unforgettable in Rebel Without a Cause, where he brought loneliness, confusion, and emotional hunger to the screen with shocking honesty. He was nominated for major awards while still young, and for a moment, it looked like Hollywood had found one of its most sensitive new talents. But fame changed, roles disappeared, and Mineo spent years fighting to be seen as more than the troubled boy audiences remembered. Then, in 1976, he was stabbed to death outside his apartment in Los Angeles. Because the killing felt sudden and cold, rumors spread quickly. Some claimed it was connected to his private life. Others imagined debts, jealousy, or a targeted underworld hit. That is how Hollywood myth works. When a famous person dies violently, the public often reaches for the most dramatic explanation first. But the real case was different. Mineo was killed during a robbery by John Williams, a man with no proven mafia connection. That truth does not make the story less tragic. It makes it even more cruel. Sal Mineo did not die because he crossed a mob boss. He died because random violence found him on an ordinary night. His place on this list is not about a confirmed mafia killing. It is about how quickly Hollywood tragedy can be stolen by rumor, reshaped by fear, and sold back as legend. Number 4. Elizabeth Short. Elizabeth Short was not officially a mafia victim, but her murder became so infamous, so brutal, and so connected to the dark imagination of Los Angeles that people have tried to attach almost every possible theory to it. She was young, beautiful, and chasing the edge of Hollywood fame when the city turned her into a nightmare. In 1947, her body was found in a vacant lot, and the case instantly became one of the most horrifying unsolved murders in American history. Newspapers gave her the name the Black Dahlia, and from that moment, Elizabeth Short stopped being treated like a real woman and became a symbol of Hollywood's hidden darkness. No verified evidence proves that the mafia ordered her death, but the underworld rumors survived because Los Angeles in that era was full of corruption, vice, illegal gambling, powerful men, and police departments that did not always inspire trust. Her murder felt too theatrical, too savage, too deliberate for the public to accept as random violence. So theories grew around doctors, criminals, fixers, and men who moved in places ordinary people never saw. Elizabeth Short belongs here because her story shows how Hollywood's dream could become a trap for outsiders. She wanted a life near the lights. Instead, she became the city's darkest legend. Whether the killer was connected to organized crime or not, her death exposed a terrifying truth. In old Hollywood, beauty could attract attention, but attention could also attract danger. Number 3. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was not officially killed by the mafia, but no Hollywood death has been dragged deeper into conspiracy than hers. To the public, she was the ultimate blonde star, funny, vulnerable, seductive, and impossible to ignore. But behind the camera, Monroe was surrounded by powerful men, studio pressure, political whispers, fragile health, and secrets people still argue about decades later. When she died in 1962, the official cause was a barbiturate overdose. That is the record. But the public never stopped asking whether the official story was the whole story. The rumors became explosive because Marilyn's life touched circles far beyond Hollywood. Her alleged connections to the Kennedy world, her rumored knowledge of private political matters, and the persistent stories of mob figures watching powerful families all turned her death into a conspiracy machine. Some theories claimed she knew too much. Others suggested she was used, silenced, or abandoned by men who could not afford scandal. None of these claims has been proven as a mafia murder, and the script must be clear about that. But Marilyn belongs near the top because her death sits at the crossroads of glamour, politics, sex, power, and fear. She was not just a movie star, she was an American obsession. And when an obsession dies alone, surrounded by unanswered questions, people rarely accept silence. The official file says overdose. The legend says Hollywood lost something far more dangerous than a star. It lost a woman who may have known too much. Number 2. Jean Spangler. Jean Spangler's disappearance is one of the strongest mystery entries on this list because, unlike many Hollywood deaths, there was no body, no final explanation, and no peaceful ending. She was a young actress and dancer trying to survive on the edges of the movie business, close enough to Hollywood to dream, but not powerful enough to be protected. In 1949, she left home and never came back. Her purse was later found near Griffith Park with a torn handle and a strange, unfinished note addressed to someone named Kirk. That one detail helped turn her disappearance into one of Hollywood's most haunting open wounds. No official proof shows that the Mafia killed Jean Spangler, but one theory connected her to people around Los Angeles nightlife and alleged underworld circles, including a rumored connection to a man associated with gangster Mickey Cohen. That was enough for the story to grow darker. In a city where aspiring actresses, nightclub men, gamblers, and criminal operators sometimes crossed paths, Spangler's vanishing felt like something more than a simple missing person case. She belongs at number 2 because her story has every element of Golden Age terror. A young woman chasing fame, a mysterious note, a broken purse, possible dangerous acquaintances, and an ending that never arrived. Jean Spangler did not become a household star, but her disappearance became something Hollywood fears even more, a question with no final scene. And sometimes, the absence of a body is what makes the shadow feel larger. Number 1. Thelma Todd. Thelma Todd is the closest this list comes to the classic Hollywood and Mafia nightmare. She was beautiful, funny, successful, and smarter than many people gave her credit for. On screen, she sparkled in comedies beside some of the biggest names of the 1930s. Off-screen, she co-owned a popular cafe near the coast, a glamorous meeting place where stars, businessmen, gamblers, and powerful personalities could all pass through the same door. That restaurant became the center of the legend. According to long-running rumors, criminal figures wanted to use the place for illegal gambling, and Todd refused. Whether that story is fully true or partly exaggerated, it gave her death a darkness that never disappeared. In 1935, Thelma Todd was found dead inside her car from carbon monoxide poisoning. Officially, the case was treated as accidental, with suicide also discussed at the time. But the public did not accept the ending quietly. Questions surrounded her final hours. Why was she in the garage? Who had she seen? Were there signs of injury? Had she angered the wrong people? And why did a star with money, attention, and enemies suddenly die in a way that felt too neat? No court ever proved a mafia murder. But Thelma Todd remains number 1 because her case carries the strongest mob shadow atmosphere. A famous actress, a profitable business, alleged gambling pressure, unexplained details, and a death that Hollywood never fully washed clean. Some stars were ruined by scandal. Some vanished into rumor. But Todd became the perfect noir image. A golden actress found dead in a silent car, while the question of who really wanted her gone still hangs in the air. So were these stars truly killed by the mafia? Or did Hollywood simply learn how to hide its ugliest truths behind official words like accident, suicide, robbery, and mystery? The records may say one thing, but the shadows tell a darker story. In the Golden Age, glamour was never innocent. Behind every spotlight stood money, power, fear, and silence. And sometimes, the most dangerous thing a star could do was know too much, refuse the wrong man, or survive too close to the truth.